Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started in a minute or two. We're just checking the waiting room, making sure everyone's with us. Welcome. Looking forward to engaging. Ruth, how are we looking on attendance? Shall we look to get started?
Mama.
Another few seconds. Some people still coming into the waiting room. Welcome, everyone. Tina, if you'd like to take us away.
Thank you, Ruth. I would absolutely love to take it away. So very, very warm welcome to everybody, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you are. I have an enormous honor today to kick off our Foresight for Systems Change training course, which has been in the making for quite some time. And finally, this day has arrived and we are able to start this learning journey with you all. So yeah, very, very excited and happy to see you all here today. My name is Tina. For those who I haven't met, I see a lot of familiar faces, lots of friends, lots of partners here, some new faces too. I'm really looking forward to getting to know you all and meet you all. And we have a fantastic community coming together. So so really looking forward to kick this off. I would also love to start by saying thank you to our partners, School of International Futures and ITC ILO, the training arm of ILO, for working and curriculum with us. So thanks, Johan, Ruth, Marius, Claudia, Delphine, Tom, Pete, Kat, for all your work you put into this. So it's not just me, there's a whole team who will help you go through this course once we get started. And we have something quite spectacular prepared for you. So I'm sure you will enjoy this a lot. So maybe just a couple of words again about Foresight and why are we so excited about Foresight? Of course, we all have our own answers, and thank you so much for sharing yours already, or for those who shared your future learning questions and motivations on the house page. I had a browse this morning, and definitely there's a wonderful diversity of ideas and future learning questions already coming through that channel, but I'm sure that we will get even more of those once we start our journey this and next week, and this orientation goes forward, and we start working around those questions and challenges that we already have started thinking about. So thank you for starting that already. But of course, there's also this background against our common agenda, which we all know. It did paint quite a dark picture and let's say a picture of worry and concern about the state of the world, about the magnitude of challenges we are faced with. We really are at the crossroads as a planet and as a humanity. And it's really up to us to decide, are we going to head towards the breakthrough or breakdown? And Foresight can help us to shift the course towards that breakthrough, and really we can use that as a tool to change the world, and also put forward in this quintet for change in the common, supporting the implementation of common agenda. So we have a lot of faith and belief in that moving forward, and that's why we all here. So foresight can really drive us in our innovation, in a preparedness effort to move from the short-term reactive thinking to long-term sustainable thinking, and also help us to build more resilient organizations that are prepared for the future. But as we all know, the change starts with individuals and people like us. We are the change makers. And this is the question we also had on our mind when we started putting this curriculum together, that, okay, these are really big words and really big challenges, but what does the change actually look like? And what does it look like when people start applying foresight in their organizations for change? And when they do that in an impactful way, what does it look like? And that's why we really wanted to take this a project-based approach to our learning, which means that we are going to think in very pragmatic terms how we're going to apply foresight to solve the everyday challenges and problems that we are already tackling as a part of our role. So take this really pragmatic, concrete approach to foresight, and not just think about that in terms of academic discipline, but apply that in combination with also other disciplines. So for instance, from UN Global Pulse, we have colleagues from data science, from behavioral science, who are also gonna help us to think about these issues in a really mixed methods, cross-disciplinary manner. Of course, we have UNESCO as well. They have a wonderful people from futures literacy and so on, UNDP, who have really great expertise in this area already. So I think we have a wonderful pot of ingredients brewing here to start thinking about foresight and experimenting foresight in very pragmatic terms, and working on concrete experiments as well to see what could work, how we could improve what we are already doing, and really step up our efforts to raise to these challenges that we are facing together. Then maybe just a little bit about you before I hand it over to Marius to kick us off. So really do have a beautiful variety of people joining from different UN agencies. We have, I mentioned UNESCO, UNDP, UNFPA, UNICEF, UNDPA, UNCTAD, UNDCO. We have people from RCOs from all over the world, including Bolivia, Kenya, Cambodia, Madagascar, Cabo Verde, Laos, North Macedonia, Guatemala. To mention some, we have government representatives from Indonesia, Cambodia, Colombia, many others as well. We have colleagues from private sector, and we have colleagues from academia, from NGOs as well. So thank you all for being here and making this big commitment. We had more demand and more people wanted to join than what we could offer this time, but keep the demand developing, and we hope to maybe offer another cohort an opportunity to learn if there's more demand and enthusiasm, which we are definitely feeling right now. So thank you for being here. Thank you for committing to this. And I can say from my behalf and whole team's behalf that we are committed to continue working with you and supporting you and collaborating with you beyond this training as well. So very excited to get things started, and the end of this course will definitely not be the end, but the beginning of really institutionalizing foresight in the daily practices of how we work. So very excited to see what comes out of this, and even more excited to sharing back with all of you and with the broader community as well what we are learning here. So warm welcome again. Let's have a lot of fun throughout the training, and I send it back to, not to Ruth, but Marius, perhaps directly. Marius is going to be our chief faculty, leading this course, and he's based in University of Pretoria, right? But also works for the School of International Futures. So Marius, over to you. Thank you so much for kicking this off for us.
Thank you, Tina, for those words of welcome. Colleagues, it's wonderful to meet you. My name is Marius Westhuizen with the School of International Futures. I'd like to start by inviting one of our directors, Peter Glenday, to say a few opening remarks.
Thank you, Marius. So hi everyone. It's very nice to see so many names, and I'm looking forward to along with the rest of our SWAF team getting to know you over this course. My name is Peter Glenday. I'm Director of Programs and Research at School of International Futures, an organisation I joined almost 8 years ago and have been collaborating with before then. And we at SWAF have been working using strategic foresight as an organisation to build capability and capacity of organisations around the world for the last decades. We were founded to try and champion the use of long-term thinking and strategic foresight within across a broad range of sectors to really try and improve how people are doing long-term thinking and to build a commitment towards impact and towards change. So this is really around how you build both systems transformation, how you can drive systems transformation, but also how you can start to integrate foresight and the futures approaches into your everyday work and everyday lives. So as we talk about it at SWAF, foresight is about creating change, not just about understanding what might be changing in the external environment. It's a systematic and organized process for engaging with uncertainty regarding the future. You've likely all heard about VUCA worlds, so volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous futures. There's also other acronyms that you'll come across which bring in concepts of turbulence or kind of novelty. But we see foresight as a way of trying to engage systematically to try and engage with uncertain futures. Whatever you're thinking about, whether it's broad global systemic challenges or trying to create change in a local community, it's a way of starting to respond to these changing environments, to build, to generate new ideas and to respond to needs in your communities and countries. And this is also very much about supporting vulnerable people, considering what are those needs, whose needs aren't being met in this current world that we're living in, but also in the potential future. So planning and building solutions and innovations that help support future generations, not just those living today. So when we talk about foresight, we often talk about three insights. We talk about shaping the future through strategic choices. So this is how do you create a better future, a more desirable future, the one that is aligned with the values and the values of your communities. We also talk about preparing for alternatives. So how do you manage risk? How do you build resilience? How can you understand different possibilities about how futures could emerge and link that back to your decision making and your planning and your policy and your innovation approaches today? And finally, a third element is creating future ready and alert organizations that are ready to adapt as the future evolves. So this is anticipatory approaches, innovative approaches, and agile approaches to planning, policy, strategy, innovation. But strategic foresight is not just about systems transformation. Yes, you may be working towards systems change. You may be working within a current system to try and improve outcomes. But what we really want you to focus on is how do you unlock transformation with wide participation and how do you challenge power? Voice, agency, and power are essential for transformation of the future. And we've been working at SWAF and as you have in the UN to really understand how you can design approaches that include diverse voices, that support multi-stakeholder approaches, and really bring people into the heart of the future and the transformative potential of tomorrow. Really putting people into the heart of the design, empowering them to create better futures and working with them to create these futures. People are at the heart of that kind of transformation. So on the next slide, this is a four-stage process which we'll be introducing over the course of this training. We'll teach you the 4 stages, teach you the framework which provides a scaffold for how you can think about futures work and how you can start to integrate it into your work. You'll reflect on this and we'll give you some practical tools and approaches to start to use this in your everyday work. We focus very much on scoping and integrating at SWAF. There's a lot of great insights already out there around how future might change, but really how do you bring it back, create change within your organization, within your community, and build the culture, systems, processes that you need to empower and really build better futures. Final slide, please. So we'll introduce this 4-stage process over the coming modules. But what will you be learning? You'll be getting practical strategic foresight skills, learning how to build capability in everyday work. So we'll introduce some foundations of strategic foresight, and we'll start doing that today. We'll provide you those practical methods for identifying trends, assessing drivers, building scenarios, alternative futures. You'll understand how to surface implications for strategy, policy, innovation, and how to link that back to work you're doing today, to become more anticipatory, to manage risk and enhance agility. And hopefully you'll leave this as a better users, commissioners of foresight work, ready to integrate it into your everyday planning, your policy, your strategy, and your innovation. So I'm going to hand back to Marius now. I'm very much looking forward to meeting you. I'll be teaching some of the modules later in the course, and together with the SWAF team, we're very excited to be on this journey with you and together with ITC, ILO, and UN Global Pulse. So Marius, back to you.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you, Claudia, Tina, for those opening remarks. Colleagues, as Peter mentioned, ITC, ILO, of course, part of the team. They're not able to be part of the comments here at the opening because of a different commitment, but we're very happy to be working with them as a third partner in this collaboration. And so let's get a little bit into the course and look at what we will be covering. We've shared this with you on the House Space platform as well, but really the key learning objectives of the course is firstly to become better users and commissioners of foresight. And so this is quite interesting that we're not looking to just teach practical skills for you to apply, but also for you to be empowered to commission foresights, to mobilize others to do foresight, to create foresight projects in the environment where you operate. Of course, the benefit of that is that it will enable you to build future-ready organizations or institutions, or to take an organization that's already focused on the future and build capacity, build capabilities within that organization to do that even better. We're also keen on enabling an environment where we can support each other as part of a global community. I think Tina mentioned this as well. We'd love to see you connecting with colleagues from all around the world, colleagues from all across the UN system and even beyond the UN system, both in the course, but also after the program, collaborating on projects together, creating impact together. And so if we can get to understanding futures approaches and using them together, that for us is a key outcome. And then very importantly, in the project work or the group work, we're going to give you multiple opportunities to experience the tools of foresight. Now, we're quite aware that there are a number of individuals in the group that are very experienced in foresight. We're super excited that we've got some real experts in the room as participants who've got a lot to bring to the table. And we've also got participants that have never used any kind of foresight tool. And so what we'll do is work with you to expose you to those experiences of your peers, provide you with opportunities to reflect on what it is that you can learn from each other, and to see how the application of foresight works best in your specific context. Now, we'd like you to, if you would, go to your name in Zoom, and if you don't mind, update your name. I see some of you already have your name, surname, and organization signified, but it would be helpful to us to get to know you better. Also, if you have a question or comment, so that we can have a line of sight of where you might be speaking from, your particular role or your position. And so if you want to do that in the background and get those names updated, that'll be useful to us throughout the course of the program. Now, before we get further into the program detail, what we'd like to do is give you a short exercise that is going to help us see who's in the room. You know, when you get into a program of this size, I see we're over 70 participants. The big question is, who's in the room? Where are we connecting from? And so what we're going to do in a minute is we're going to give you a link in the chat to a platform called Miro. Many of you will know Miro. You may have used Miro before. Miro will be one of the tools that we'll use throughout the program to collaborate. And in the Miro, once you click on that link, what's going to happen is you're going to see these three bubbles. The one is called private or public sector, government or multilateral. The second one is called civil society, social or nonprofit. And the third one is called private sector or business. And we're asking you in the Miro space, collaboratively, to think about where have you come from in your profession? Have you spend some time in the private sector, then move to the public sector. And you'll notice in the Miro, there are a couple of little dots at the top. You can grab one of those dots and move it in the Miro to the bubble that's relevant. And then at the bottom, you'll notice there are a whole bunch of post-it notes. And what we're going to ask you to do is to give us a sense of your superpower. You might be a brilliant leader, you might be a wonderful sense maker or an analyst. And if you don't find something in the list there that excites you, you can write your own superpower. So we're interested in understanding where you've come from and what you bring to the conversation during the program. Ruth, if you don't mind popping that Miro link, there we go. The Miro link is in the chat. And in a second here, I'm going to stop sharing my slide and I'm going to share the Miro board. And I can see already there's a whole bunch of people who have moved across. Let's see if this comes up. We've moved across to the Miro board. Let's see if that comes up. Fascinating. I can see all kinds of movement there. And let me reiterate just very simply, at the top of the page in Miro, in the present, where have you spent most of your working time? In the green dot and in the pink dot, you may want to drag that your past, sorry, the green is your past career, the pink is your current career position, and then at the bottom, some examples of superpowers. I see teamwork, persuasiveness, perceptiveness, tenacity, creativity. If you for some reason are struggling to get into Miro, feel free to pop a question in the chat. We're available to support you. Our team, Ruth, as well as Johan, are part of the team today. If you have any challenges getting into Miro, or maybe you have a question about how to navigate Miro. Now, of course, as we're doing this exercise, one of the reasons we're doing it is we'd love to use Miro collaboratively throughout the program when we're doing exercises together, sharing ideas, brainstorming, or planning a foresight project. And so this is just to get us a little bit used to Miro, get us comfortable. It's fascinating what seems to be emerging. If I look at the past work experience, it seems to me that there's quite a bit of civil society experience and quite a bit of private sector experience, and of course, many in the public sector. And then if we look at our present professional experience, there certainly is a dominance of public sector, government, and multilateral exposure. And of course, if we reflect about what that will mean for the program, it will mean probably that some of our conversations might be sort of, the perspective might be slanted towards the public sector perspective or the multilateral perspective. And so those voices in the room that are from civil society or from the private sector, this is an invitation to you to speak up and make sure that you're keeping us balanced and you're preventing us from getting into groupthink. I see there's a comment in the chat, Chantal, saying that she's struggling somehow to grab a dot. Chantal, what you might want to try is to move your cursor over the dot, click on it and hold the cursor there, and then you should be able to drive it. You should be able to drag it, in fact, down into that circle. Don't stress if you're not, if you're struggling a little bit. There will be other opportunities to do more of this. Let me zoom in for a minute and look at some of those great superpowers coming through. Let me see if I can do that. Here we are. A bit of a zoom going in here. Someone says they're great at looking at the big picture, openness to learning, fast work. I don't know who said that they're a fast worker, but we can certainly use that. Bridge building, very interesting. Advocacy, empathy, teamwork. There's a convener in the room. Convening, of course, is a crucial skill when doing foresight. So this is a wonderful collaboration. And colleagues, thank you for your enthusiasm in jumping into Miro and practicing with us and telling us who you are. We'll share this Miro with you on the House Space platform. And so you may want to go back to it. You may want to go and visit that and make sense of who's in the room with you and what the journey is that might mean we take together, you know, where we go next in terms of who's in the room. I want to change pace for a second. And if you feel like you want to carry on working a little bit on Miro, you're welcome to do that. If you feel like you want to jump off Miro and come back to the room here to look at my next slide, you feel free to do that as well. I want to take a few minutes just to talk about the program. Now, some of this information is not new information. You would have seen this if you came to the info session about the program. You may have also seen this on the Housebase platform, so bear with me if I'm repeating information a little bit. You'll notice that we've structured the program over a 4-module process. And so those blue circles, module 1 is Foresight Foundations, module 2, Exploring Futures, Practical Approaches, module 3, Moving from Insights into Action. So in other words, how do we use foresight in an organization? And then module 4, Integrating Foresight for Systems Change. How do we embed foresight into organizations? And you might have noticed that these four modules mirror the scaffolding or the process that Peter described to us. And so we've structured the program along those lines. At the moment, we're heading here from this blue square on onboarding into our first session, Foundations of Foresight. And then at the end of the program, in the green, we're aiming at developing some projects together, some ongoing learning projects where you might be experimenting on something, you might be grappling with a project in your organization already. And so the goal of the process is really to support you in getting to a set of projects that can make a real impact in your everyday work, as Tina also said. If you look at the bottom of the slide, you may have a question of how are we going to be engaging every week? So what can I expect from the rhythm of the program? Are we meeting on a Monday or a Friday or a Thursday? How is this going to work? What's probably going to work, what's usually going to work on a week-by-week basis, is we'll connect with each other in that orange sphere there for 2 hours of live online teaching, very similar to what we're doing today. And you're going to meet multiple faculty. Some really great experts on foresight are going to speak to you, and it's going to be very interactive during those 2 hours. But we call those 2 hours the synchronous part of our program. And then we're going to spend another 2 hours during the week, maybe on a Wednesday for 30 minutes or on a Thursday for an hour. We're going to spend another 2 hours doing a combination of exercises, self-directed work where we ask you to work on something on your own, or peer-to-peer learning where we bring you together as a group and you grapple together with an exercise, or asynchronous work where you do a reading or you write a short paragraph. And between these two segments, the 2 hours of live teaching and the 2 hours of self-directed work, you will accumulate the 40 hours of overall training that you're going to receive through the program. We're also going to be moving through different modes of learning. And so you could expect in the program, some of this learning is going to happen as an individual. You in front of your desktop, reading a paper, writing something, working on your project. Some of this is going to happen in a group. And we'll talk more about the groups a little bit later. We've allocated you preliminarily to a group. And so you might find yourself with interesting people that you don't know, or you might find yourself with some friends that you worked on with, on previous projects. And then very importantly, some of our our interaction will be as a connected network where we might bring in speakers who aren't on the program but have an interest in the program. And we'll move through these different modes of engagement. A last input from me before I hand to my colleague Ruth to talk about the schedule of the program is the program will apply the rule called Chatham House rules, which basically means that inside of this room, you are free to share as honestly and transparently and as authentically as you like. And if you would like to say something in the program that you would not want to have repeated in public, feel free to say so, and we will make sure that we pause the recording or edit the recording to make sure that we protect you, from any risk of saying something that you may be sensitive about. But the other side of that is we'd love to invite you to respect the privacy of others in the program, so that we can be as free as possible and speak as authentically and honestly as possible, especially on sensitive topics. Some of us might be interested in dealing with conflict. Some might be interested in politics as we do foresight. And so feel free to speak freely, but please don't quote anyone directly at the end of the program or outside of the program. Feel free to tweet during the program, write something on Facebook or LinkedIn, but please don't use any attribution. And so with that, let me come to my colleague, Ruth Beveridge. Ruth is just a guru at providing the back-end support to the program as our project manager. Ruth, if you'd like to talk to us about the process.
Thank you, Marius. My name's Ruth Beveridge. I'm a project manager at the School of International Futures, and I'm supporting coordinating the programme, and I'm here to help with any operational queries that you have, both in the sessions and outside the sessions as well. So it's an absolute pleasure to be here. Delighted that we're finally kicking off this journey, and a pleasure to see so many of you in the room. So I was asked to talk a little bit about the practicalities, any outstanding questions that you may have, and a little bit about how we'll be working together in the next 11 or so weeks. So as Marius has touched on there, we'll be working together in weekly 2-hour teaching sessions, and you'll also be asked to work individually and in smaller groups around those. Learning sessions will be recorded and will typically be available within about 48 hours of the session on our online space, House Space, so that you can either recap or catch up on a session that you may not be able to attend at your convenience. You will meet your groups in the session this Wednesday. The group experience should be fun and participative, and is there to help you apply your learning practically at each step of the SWOF 4-stage process, as Marius has touched on. Now, you should have received an invitation to the online platform. I will share the screen in a moment in terms of what that looks like. But in the meantime, I will pop a link in the chat. Here we go. So this is House Space, as I've said. We will be using this platform for the duration of the training. On this platform, you will be able to access all of the recordings and training materials as we go through the programme. This is also where you'll be able to complete interactive exercises that solidifies theoretical knowledge. Thank you, Marius. This is also a space to connect and communicate. This is the space to share ideas with colleagues and better connect with the training community in a more informal way. This is also where you can ask the faculty in the Q&A section any clarifying questions, inquire about additional material, or gain clarity about the overall content. So really important that you have access to this space. If you haven't received an invitation to House Space, then please just let me know in the chat through the course of the next hour or so, and we can sort that out for you. You will also receive communications directly from the platform, including any updates, the Zoom calls for the sessions, and access details for the teaching sessions as well. And as Marius is just showing there, we'll have different areas for your groups, and all the module content will sit within each module. So that's a little bit about the House Space session there. If Marius, you could go back to sharing the slides, please. Typically, the live online teaching sessions will take place on a Monday, and group sessions and asynchronous engagements will take place later in the week. Next slide, please, Marius. This first, don't worry, you don't need to read this timetable in detail. This is also available on House Space. So this is the full programme timetable that takes us through to July. I'll pop a PDF in the chat in the moment as well. Please use today's version as the up-to-date, accurate version. I know that something was shared a couple of weeks ago, but please use today's version as the most up-to-date. This week, I know that we have 2 teaching sessions this week, today and Thursday. That is partly because of the Easter break coming up, so that won't be typical. Like I said, typically we'll have the teaching sessions on a Monday, and the group sessions and asynchronous engagements will take place later in the week. If there are any minor changes to the programme towards the end of the programme, we will communicate these well in advance. And in terms of one more thing to say about Zoom is that we will be running all of the sessions using Zoom. You should have received a calendar invite today. The fact that so many of you are here is great. And again, going forward, you will receive calendar invites with those Zoom details on it for each session, as well as through Housespace. So there are a number of ways to get the access information that you need. I think that's it from me in terms of practicalities. I am here for the duration of the session. So we've got some space for questions here now. And if there is anything else, please feel free to pop it in the chat. Back to you, Marius.
Thank you, Ruth. That was very, very helpful. Colleagues, it does tend to take a little bit of time in a program like this to get comfortable and figure out, where is Housespace? Where is the Zoom link? Where is the exercise? And so we've worked really hard to centralize all of that for you in Housespace. And so Housespace is your religious text for the duration of the program. But if there's anything else that we can help you with, we can always receive an email, a chat during the program. What we'd like to do at this point is just to pause and to receive any questions you may have based on anything we've shared about the program, the way it's going to run, any operational logistical questions. Feel free to pop up a hand. Of course, in Zoom, by this time, we all know how to put up a hand or a thumbs up. Louis, is it Louisa? Louisa, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, thank you, Marius. Yes, it's Louisa. Yeah, I have a question on the asynchronous content piece. If I understood it correctly in the agenda, on some weeks it says 20 minutes, 40 minutes, 60 minutes. So I was just wondering, since parts of it will be self-organized and parts in groups, I'm just wondering how to best plan ahead and which slots to book in my agenda, because I wasn't sure whether I should book all of them and how those slices of 20, 40 minutes work.
Thank you, Louisa. Ruth, before you answer, if you don't mind, I want to just mention that Claudia from UNGP is also with us in the room. And some of the questions might be directed to UNGP. So Claudia, welcome to the Q&A discussion. Ruth, go ahead on those.
Thank you for your question, Louisa. So the sessions that are in groups, the smaller sessions that have dates and times allocated to them, we will be sharing those calendar dates with you, so that as a group you can come together in those fixed times. There are some sessions in the program, or some parts of the program, that are labeled self-facilitated, and that's perhaps the 20 minutes that you're referring to. That's for you to do in your own time. The tasks will give you as we go through the program. What I think to help you, what's important is the sequencing of that. So if there's a self-facilitated time allocated between session C and session D, for example, it is ideal that you create time for that work in between those two sessions, because it may be something that feeds from one session into another. So that's fairly flexible for you to do in your own time, but the sequencing is important if you can. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you. There was a question in the chat about whether the slides will be available. You'll find that at the end of every session, the slides as well as the recording will make its way onto Housespace. And so if you missed something, if you had to catch a plane, as one of our participants today had to do, and you miss half of the session, you can revisit it. Or you may want to go back to it in order to do an exercise. You may want to revisit some of the teaching content. So that will be available to you as well. Who else would like to ask a question? Anything on your mind? Of course, there's no such thing as a silly question. If you're thinking it, it's very likely that many others are thinking the same thing. Who would like to raise a hand, unmute your mic, feel free to ask a question. Louisa, go ahead.
Sorry, yes, I do have another one, and that one is probably more for UNDP. I somehow only realized now that this course content might be quite interesting for other colleagues too. So I know that the deadline has passed, but is there any way to still share some of this with other colleagues or team up with them?
Thank you, Louisa, and welcome everybody. Good to see you all and happy to be part of this kickoff. As you know, and some of you might not, we do offer the microlearning track, and that is for colleagues who were not able to join in at the time of the deadline, or that don't have the time to join fully these courses. And that will be in the form of an email where we share microlearning content, both videos, reading materials, summaries of what the groups have been doing, and that will happen at the end of each module. So if you want, please share their emails with us and we can put them on that mailing list for the microlearning content. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudia. Maybe one thought to add, a big part of the program is focused on your project-related learning. And so, of course, there's nothing stopping you from taking a piece of your project work and connecting with a colleague that's interested in what we're doing in the program and working with them in a collaborative way. And then, of course, the microlearning will enhance their insight into what it is that you're working on. Pamela, your question.
Yes, thank you very much. I just, on the house space, I think I've registered now at least 4 times. I keep getting the same, please give us your short story, and I get it in a script that's Thai or Laotian or something. So I'm not sure if that's an error problem on my computer that's somehow reading it incorrectly. And then on the readings, I just had a question because I just quickly downloaded again one of the readings, but it's like a review of a book. Are we supposed to find the book online and read it? I'm not clear what you are doing with the readings. Thank you.
Thank you, Pamela. If I could talk about the readings for a second, then come to Ruth on the more difficult question. The book review we shared with you is really a short, quick perspective on the fact that that book exists and some of the main concepts that the book discusses. We're not asking you to read the book, but of course, if you, after the foundational module, feel like you would like a deeper, wider perspective on the foundations of foresight, that particular book, I think it's called The Future, A Short Story, is a great starting point. And so feel free to go and get hold of a copy of that, but it certainly is not a prerequisite for the program.
Thank you.
Pamela, if I don't have an answer actually for what's happening with your house space, but I will take that away with ITCLO in particular that are supporting with the platform. So yeah, thank you for raising that, and I shall investigate. If I may just come in, thank you for raising the pre-reading. I'm conscious that not everybody on the call has yet got access to house space, or perhaps are still familiarizing themselves with the platform. Within the platform, there are some optional and required pre-reading, early reading in the program. So please take some time to look at that. There's also a learning questionnaire that we would really urge all participants to take part in and complete. It doesn't take long, but it really helps us as faculty understand a little more about your learning objectives. So thank you for raising that, Pamela.
Thank you, Ruth. There was another question in the chat. Someone saying they were still a little bit unclear about the possibility of others joining. I see that Claudia has answered it. I've also responded saying that this intake currently is oversubscribed, but feel free to invite the interested parties to sign up for the micro-learning. And so they would be sort of at arm's length, getting some of the benefits of the program, and then we can always look at getting them fully involved in a next intake. We have a couple more minutes here if there are other questions. While we're thinking about our questions, we're also aware that there are some participants for who English is their second, third, or maybe fourth language. And so let me say that if you at some point feel you'd love for us to pause and to clarify a concept, or to just reshare something and assist in getting over some of the language barriers, we're completely happy to do that. We'd love to accommodate you. A final round of questions or comments. Anyone who would like to raise a hand?
Marius, there is a comment on the chat.
Claudia.
Yeah, sure. So this is from Kat, and she's asking whether we'll be doing group work with our project group or mixed up with other project groups. Do you want to take that?
Thank you. I see that our fellow faculty, Johan Schutte, is with us on the call. Johan, would you like to speak to how we thought about the thematic groups versus the projects themselves? Anything you'd like to share?
Yes, so we will, hello everyone. So we have divided you into the thematic groups, which we will share later, specifically in the upcoming session, I think that is on Wednesday, where we'll be explicitly focusing on the groups themselves, but there will be these 5 thematic groups. And in the group work within these types of sessions, and when you get together in those learning group sessions, we will have a broader thematic work in terms of the exercises you will be doing, but you will also be working together with your smaller groups on your specific projects or project development, etc. But that will not necessarily be in those larger learning groups. I don't know if that makes sense. Marius, I think you can add if you want to.
Thank you, Johan. I think that's exactly right. And so the way you could think about that is, let's imagine that you learned a new concept called the Futures Wheel, which is one of the tools we'll teach. You might experiment with the Futures Wheel as a thematic group because you share an interest in a particular field, and that will be very enriching because you're all thinking about the same domain. But then you might go a step further and take the Futures Wheel and apply it to your own project, and you might have a small group, three or five or whatever it is, people working on a specific project where you then apply that method or that concept to the project. Thank you for that, Johan. Colleagues, a last question or two if you have. If there are none, please let me reiterate that the chat is always open and the emails are available in house space as well. Under the faculty box there's a click for Q&A. Anytime you have a question, please pop them in there. We are headed to 10 minutes to the hour. And what we'd like to do for the second half of our engagement today is get a little bit into the teaching and really start to deal with some of the foresight content. But before we do that, we're aware that you've been sitting for an hour almost. And so we'd like to give you a 5-minute leg stretch. If you want to grab a glass of water, we will keep the room open. And so feel free to pop out, get a glass of water or so. We'll start back again at 5 to the hour, if that's okay. We'll start at 5 to the hour. We'll see you back in a few minutes' time.